Hello and welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast Minisodes. My name is Vera and I'm joined, as always, by my two sacrificial co-hosts, Katie.
Hello.
And Livy.
Hi. Why sacrificial?
Because we're talking about how Xena sacrificed herself so Buffy could be the one that everyone talks about.
Whoa. That's deep.
No. They both sacrifice themselves a lot.
They both deal with themes of sacrifice.
Yes.
I'm going to make an argument about sacrifice parts 1 and 2.
Whoa. Okay. Well, that was kind of a roundabout way of saying that we're going to be talking about Buffy today, but also Xena.
Yes.
And Xena and Buffy. And Buffy and
Yes.
Xena.
Exactly.
So get ready. Get your, what are they called? Oh my God, it's been so long. All I can think of is Mr. Pointy. What is he? A steak. Get your steaks ready.
Wow,
and
prepared. Talk about Buffy, the
Mr. Pointy is a very specific reference.
I mean, I think that's funny how that often works for shows, is you'll remember, like, the most insignificant details, but then, like, forget, like, a main character's name. You know?
What's her name? The one who's the vampire slayer? She's blonde. What is her name?
Buffus.
Oh, right. Yes. So this is a Patreon's minisode.
Yes. One of our patrons, Bobby, has written the following. Some of the significant things Buffy the Vampire Slayer swiped from Xena, in parentheses. Isn't Spike just Ares? Thank you, Bobby. That is an intriguing prompt. Of course, we have talked about Buffy a lot over the years of podcasting. It helped us coin Xena Did It First.
I know. Can you believe?
And actually, I had completely forgotten that in our Buffy minisode that we did a while back, I didn't realize we didn't talk about Xena.
Like, we were talking about Buffy.
Like we didn't really do this kind of like side-by-side comparison that I think we'd always kind of threatened to do, but never actually quite like sat down and made that argument of what are the kind of shared features in Xena and Buffy, and did Buffy steal them from Xena?
Yeah, however, like within our episodes about Xena, we definitely mentioned a lot of these specifics. We're probably going to say a lot of the same things.
Yeah, we're going to cover
yes.
some territory, but it's been a while. Certainly, like I feel like when we were really hitting this subject hard, it was like, you know, Callisto days, especially Intimate Stranger, and you know, it's been a while. So,
will our opinions be the same?
I don't know. I was re-listening to the episode that we did about Buffy before, and it was intriguing to hear some of the things. I sounded very scared about watching Buffy again, which I don't really feel so much anymore.
Because you did. You just watched some.
I watched a little bit.
It was pretty
really fun.
The fears that you expressed on that minisode were that, you know, due to the ongoing drama involving Joss Whedon, kind of a reckoning with Joss Whedon, you were worried you would go back to Buffy and really just feel like, it was written by a grosso.
I guess so.
And that's still true, but I certainly wasn't sitting there rewatching early Buffy being like, Joss, all I see is Joss.
Yeah.
I was watching it with a smile on my face.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's weird because for me, we know Joss is gross, and literally he is still being like investigated from crazy gross stuff.
He dropped out of the Nevers, seemingly on his own.
Sure, Jan.
Yeah.
Well, he's going through so much crazy stuff. Whatever, Joss. But the Nicholas Brendan stuff bothers me a little bit more than the Joss stuff. I don't know. Ugh.
In part because you don't like Xander.
Well, it makes it hard. Yes, it literally makes it more difficult. Is that I see that Xander, who is supposed to be so like whatever. If you're into Xander being like sweet schmo, best friend, friend-zoned friend, then that's like your thing or whatever. But like kind of knowing that there's some underlying grossness for the actor.
Who would you prefer? You must keep one, Xander or Virgil?
What?
I was going to say Joxer, but I changed my mind at the last second.
I would
they're
keep
the true
Joxer, but like,
yeah.
this is hard. Well, Xander was already designed to be how he is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
While Virgil came in specifically to interrupt a thing and just be manly in the presence of hunk.
Yeah, it's a very specific problem that Virgil was addressing that Buffy never needed to address.
No. So I guess Xander I would keep.
Okay. He's in a lot.
He's just in it. So I can't really toss him out.
As I said in our previous episode, was originally one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Wait, I was say off the top, again, everybody should remember, it's not a competition.
It really isn't. We're glad both these shows exist. And honestly, I mean, this is like, this is almost like my tinfoil hat thing, because I have no proof that Joss watched Xena.
I have proof.
You do?
No, I don't.
Oh my God. I was about to get really excited.
I thought somehow there would surely be a quote of him, and I couldn't find a single one.
Why would
Quentin Tarantino has mentioned
but he doesn't
in words. I felt like there must have been Joss referencing.
But Quentin Tarantino didn't literally copy things shot for shot, like how Joss Whedon did.
That was interesting.
So therefore,
but we have no proof.
We have no proof other than the text.
Exactly. Why would he go around admitting it? I love Buffy. I watched it, and then I got ideas for
Buffy
my show.
was
Sorry,
first.
I loved Xena, and I watched it, and I got ideas for my show Buffy from it.
Don't forget
Nobody
that Buffy,
says that.
the character, was first.
That's okay.
and as we said previously, the two shows shouted each other out, as they should. You had Buffus, the Buckeye Slayer, and you had that line from
Halloween,
second season, Buffy.
And very early Buffy.
Yeah, I shouldn't be mentioning it.
Yeah. So they're textually...
But then secretly, he's writing it all down.
Yeah, but you clearly... The comparisons and the popularity in different ways at the time had it... were to the level where both shows were textually referencing each other and being meta and calling out the existence of the other. So
that's
it's valid that we are talking about them together. In the
game
podcast.
Recognizes game. It's not like they. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Buffy made a lot of cultural references.
Right.
Xena made fewer. So the fact that this
really.
Buffy one gets through, that's big. I feel like that. It seems to me there may even be quotes from Rob and team talking about Buffy. We see more in that direction, that the Xena production crew liked Buffy, whereas Joss has never.
I'm telling you, it's because he was
shown his
stealing the ideas, while Rob and Co were admiring it as a contemporary.
So I mean, this is territory we've covered before, but I feel it's important to remind everybody of the timelines here.
Yes, let's.
Xena premieres in September 1995. Correct. Buffy in February of 97?
March 97.
March 97.
Yeah.
So what it sounds like a lot of time, but what it actually means is that Buffy Season 1 is airing concurrently with the second half of Xena Season 2.
Right.
So they're really just a season apart.
And Season 2 of Buffy and Season 3 of Xena would kind of be being made concurrently. And thus not influenced by each other specifically. Somehow, we went into detail about this.
I think you could make an argument that Season 3 of Xena would be aware of Buffy.
Because of the shot-by-shot stuff that we were talking about.
Right. The shot-for-shot stuff is totally true, because that's Season 4 of Buffy.
Right.
Years later.
4, yeah.
They definitely had time.
But
Joss had time.
Three we don't know.
He was taping them.
I mean, if you're looking for and this is something I was thinking about, is it's quite noticeable to me that Xena has a problem in the early seasons with finales, in that they don't exist. It just ends with a random episode.
That's true.
Is There a Doctor in the House is actually a good finale.
It's still just an episode.
But it's an episode.
Yeah.
Whereas suddenly you get Season 3 with a two-parter, Sacrifice, and which ends spectacularly and pulls in threads. And to me, I see influence actually running in the other direction there. Yeah. I think they saw Prophecy Girl and went, oh, that's cool. Let's do that. Let's do Prophecy Girl. true.
That's okay. But that's not outright stealing.
But what's amazing to me about that, actually, is that I think, and I didn't look up the name, but the season 2 Buffy finale, to
Becoming Part 2?
Yes, Becoming Parts 1 and 2 is so similar kind of in vibe to Sacrifice. And they were airing at the same time. Literally the same time. So
so nobody stole that.
Nobody stole it.
They both came up with the same genius.
I think the well, they're both drinking from the well.
Yeah.
It's really the argument in the end.
You're saying the tap water of Los Angeles
yes.
is the well?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think stuff like that is really interesting because you have these sort of dramatic, emotional conclusions, fiery pits opening up and people falling into them, tears, sacrifice, big choices. Like, those episodes are really similar.
Penetration with various sharp objects.
Yes.
Swords, both.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that they're so similar, actually.
I didn't actually think about that.
Yeah. Weird demonic thing, too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
They just have a lot in common, and, I'm not sure. I tend to think that still Xena did it first, just in the sense that Xena's out there kind of putting this energy into the universe.
That's right.
Influenced via energy. It's like the ideas level. If you read David Lynch's Catching the Big Fish, with the ideas, you just gotta grab them kind of from the ether. Mm-hmm. So they're all out there. These ones, and these ideas. Xena's putting them, and Buffy's catching them.
Yeah. I do think there's something to that, and I have a feeling that certainly the Xena crew would have said, "Oh wow, Buffy understands how to do arcs and finales. Let's do a finale."
Yes. They did genuinely.
That's a fun idea.
Yeah, I think that there's
However,
the narrative stuff of the 90s is always very fascinating to me because I always feel like I do have a bit of a tunnel focus on genre stuff of what's influencing what and where does what start, and X-Files comes into it.
When did the X-Files?
Twin Peaks sort of comes into it, but not really. That's still being its own funky soap opera thing. X-Files started in 1993.
No, but when was the 2-parter finale that was really good?
That was season 2 into season 3. Would have been 94. No, it would have been 1995. It was 1995.
So earlier.
So maybe Sacrifice was influenced by that.
Sacrifice, getting it from X-Files, and Buffy also getting it from X-Files at the exact same.
For all the X-Files out there, Vera is referencing Anasazi, the Blessing Way, and Paperclip.
Because those were really...
Yeah. That was the first time I totally... it's so annoying, I feel like maybe how often we're like, I think you already know this about us, but I'm just going to say it again. That was my first cliffhanger, where I was like, Then I remember... Now that I'm all Star Trek-ified, I'm sure there was something there. Maybe. I can't remember. But that was the first time I felt like, oh, the summer. Oh, my God, I have to wait all year for this. Oh, my God, what? And then the next one probably was Becoming Part 2, where I was like, what happened? Yes. I cried. I did. I went into my mom's room. I was like, Mom. Oh my God. Buffy killed Angel.
Well, good times.
But yeah, my point there was just the way that narrative works and that Buffy, I think, and X-Files were kind of the first biggies to really kind of do the Monster of the Week and the full season arc mixed together. And Xena starts doing it a bit. I would argue that Callisto is kind of the first overarching quote unquote big bad that Buffy would have coined as a phrase, big bad. So that exists fairly early in Xena.
Yes, Xena gets to, Xena does that first. Yeah, and I think with the advent of Callisto is when we really started talking about those parallels with Buffy because Callisto equals Faith. That just seems so clear.
However, Faith was not the big bad, ultimately. She was
she's Faith apologist.
It was the mayor that season.
The mayor is the big bad.
Traditionally, yes.
She was the mirror of Buffy.
Yes,
so
the dark mirror.
I feel like when I saw this prompt that this would just be like the Faith Callisto Power Hour episode, because that's
okay
where
with
some
that.
of the biggest stuff is. I think. Just in terms of the idea of like swiping, which is more similarities, not outright like they saw and took it, but like the similarities and themes are very similar there, and also people love them.
But it's switched. Callisto's blonde.
I know, how dare.
Xena's dark.
And of course, Xena, well, maybe this is for later, but Xena is not Buffy.
No.
Yes, I mean, that isn't one of the primary things I would like to discuss,
Yes.
is actually how, the shows seem so similar on paper in the sense that it's like, female warrior with, her relationships.
Yeah.
They
got
violence. But
Xena is not Buffy.
kind of super powered.
Yeah.
No.
Both of them in some kind of not human way. They got the sidekicks. What else? The shows in general are kind of campy in different ways.
they both do lines.
They're both
very good at lines.
They love lines. they love a line. Yeah, for sure. And like both shows, I think are great examples of like kind of my favorite thing, which is that they're just all over the place in terms of tone, but in a cohesive way. You can have like different episodes that are comedies or darker or whatever. Buffy is a little more in line, where it's kind of all like that, like every episode.
I think
is
the
kind of
mix
like that.
changes, but you always have the mix. Whereas Xena's like just
Today we're doing this.
Yeah, just like completely changing its genre. This real shapeshifter of a show.
But they both kind of do that. So yeah, like obviously
Shapeshifter, that's the X-Files.
Yeah, there's a lot of like very, very similar elements to both shows. And I think obviously the biggest being that they are these kind of superhero female characters in the 90s, in the whole girl power thing. And obviously like that was like the biggest like comparison between the two.
Yeah.
But there's more.
But wait, there's more. So I don't know, since we brought it up, do you want to talk about like the characters themselves? Like like how is Xena different from Buffy? Like,
Well, I was going to say
that's a good
she's
one.
well, because she's more like Angel, and she's a grown up.
She's a grown
yeah,
ass
really,
woman.
Angel the show is like Xena.
Yes,
because
it
he's
is.
like making amends.
So, like Xena did it first.
Yeah.
Angel, like, clearly is. I feel like he must be influenced by Xena in some way. Not like they're
He's
like
brunette.
like they're like the first characters ever to have some kind of
have a thing they need to apologize
horrible
for.
past.
Yeah.
They were the first ones.
But I mean, Angel does have those amazing 10 years ago storylines. You know,
it's wild.
Yeah.
Darla is his Barias.
Oh my god.
Yes, she is. That is the thing. They have these flashbacks. They're super wacky. They wear costumes. Like, they're all over the place. They're in different parts of town, like, all over the world.
Xena's wig is way better than his flashback
Oh my god,
wig.
his flashback wig is so bad.
And yeah, there's just doing all this horrible stuff all over the place.
And I feel like Angel kind of dealt with a similar, interesting problem. I say it's a problem. It's fascinating, so I don't find it a problem. But just this, is Angela's Angel, is Xena.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
just how to handle that
evil
kind of schism.
angel. Yeah.
Who are these people? Are they two separate people, or are they? Are they responsible? Are they not? Yeah.
I know. Xena does not have the excuse of
Becoming
like
a vampire.
literally
She didn't
not
lose
having
her
her soul
Yeah.
removed from her.
But at the same time, you do feel that as certainly as Angel the show went on, that kind of divide became more and more kind of problematized.
Yeah, which is much more interesting than just split.
And there was that episode where he like pretended that he was Angela's.
Right.
And he
was really good at pretending, which made you go, what have we been watching all this time? But not even to get into then also concurrently you have Spike on Buffy and like that just messed up the whole idea of like without a soul you're a different person, because Spike was basically identical soul and unsouled.
Oh, that is a good segue into the other hand, like the part of the prompt that was is Spike.
It's Aries, basically Spike, yeah.
They both wear leather pants.
We definitely, this came up when we were talking about the Aries stuff in season 6, and I'm pretty sure I said that I wish that they devoted the storyline for Aries to become more like Spike. Because while there was definitely elements, like when he has no god powers.
Yeah.
You know, he's like neutered, basically, like Spike was when he started becoming a good guy. But he wasn't like consistently in the show. Like, for instance, I prefer, and this is a crazy thing for me to say, because you know how I felt about Aries for most of the show, but I wish there was more Aries in it and less Virgil, of course. But like, yeah, take a little puppy Aries along with you instead of Virgil. You know, teach him how to be a human man.
Yeah.
It's such good story possibilities there, which we got from Spike. So that I know it's satisfying. So give it to us.
Surface level, I was gonna say they have leather
for sure.
Blonde brunette.
Are we shipping it?
Yes, why not?
Yeah, I do think Spike, you know, gets more attention and hence is a more like fully developed.
That's what character. I mean. He was entirely developed.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do think like I see the parallels, but I also like see the differences. You know, Spike didn't have the backstory with Buffy that Aries has with Xena, and like that to me is so important to their relationship and connection is kind of that element.
Yeah, but like, don't you just want to see Aries, who was born privileged and spent his entire life doing fuck knows what, suddenly not being able to do that and has to kind of deal with his feelings for Xena from before now as this like weird little guy who doesn't know how to be a human being? Like,
definitely, yeah, that sounds amazing to me. And what you see of it on the show is powerful.
Yeah,
Kevin Smith is an amazing actor, and you definitely see that transformation, even if the show itself wasn't working as hard to sell it.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted more of that stuff. Giving me a full arc. It is kind of like weird because he's kind of like reverse Spike, where Spike started off as this schmo and became kind of like quote unquote badass, and then
was secretly always
reverted into schmoness.
Which is part of why that character is so satisfying. Say that when you finally see his backstory in Fool for Love, you're like, oh.
Right, so that's why I kind of...
He was always a schmuck.
Wouldn't it be amazing to sort of learn that, like, while Aries was sort of born in this, like, you know, the privileged godhood, his dad being Zeus et al., that he was never really that amazing at it, and also, you know, just kind of fronting the I'm God of War kind of thing.
It's true. And I feel like you do see that with him is kind of the, you know, the lie of masculinity. Which is,
I mean, he was like overdoing it with all his like outfits.
He's not a great fighter.
No.
He's always getting these like doofusy warlords to do his dirty work for him. And he just kind of follows Xena around like a kicked puppy, as you say.
It's good.
But I mean, I feel like these are the kinds of feelings that we often express about Xena, which is, you know, it doesn't do arcs the way Buffy does. You know, obviously Callisto maybe she doesn't have an equivalent amount of screen time to Faith. Faith
She's
has
like,
probably
wait a second.
Somewhat more.
Because didn't count it, she has like 8 episodes total, right?
Yeah.
Not including the plot that we should talk about again. But
Good point.
Faith is in?
No, Callisto.
Yeah,
Callisto.
I feel like Faith is in more episodes.
She's in like the entire season 3,
and obviously,
basically.
she gets more, you know, kind of gets a complete storyline in a way that I think we've often expressed we wish we had that for Callisto.
Absolutely.
We don't quite. What we have is this much more, you know, just a really odd... Like, I mean, I love how messy Xena is, and I think that's part of why we've loved talking about it over the years, is it doesn't have the same, like, intention as Buffy.
You're so funny. I wish it wasn't so messy.
I love
it would be
mess,
like
though.
extra
It would be
amazing.
different.
I love that Callisto became, a creepy angel doll. Not angel like angel, like angel like an angel. And then she's also the daddy of Eve and all this
she
stuff.
She could have done that.
No, Gabs is the dad. She's the other mom.
Dadriel, yeah. She's the, I guess, sperm donor.
I guess so. I guess so.
The biological dad.
Yeah.
Versus Dadriel. Yeah, I mean, listen, we were robbed an entire season of Callisto hanging out in season 2.
And even I remember saying back in the day when the body swap happened, I thought that was such a clever way for Xena to deal with Lucy Lawless's injury. And I kind of wanted that to stick around for like 5 episodes. Like I was into it. I loved the idea of Hudson like playing Xena for a while. And that just like being the show now. I thought that was so bold. And I do feel like that is a Whedon-esque thing to do. Like it just is. Like he pulls that move later, and I definitely feel like he saw those episodes of Xena.
This is the aforementioned
body swap.
The body swap episodes for both shows are the aforementioned, like, similar, actually, shots within those scenes themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the scenes we're talking about when we say they were similar shots, it's in Who Are You? When Buffy is looking into the mirror and reciting... it's Faith as Buffy.
That's so good.
And his Faith in Buffy's body is reciting these lines that she's heard Buffy say to her, because it's wrong. And this basically the exact same thing had happened 2 years earlier in Xena when Callisto is Xena. Mm-hmm. She's looking into the camera lens. She's
looking into
into Argo's POV.
It's Argo's POV.
Yeah.
But it's the same literal shot.
It's kind of get that warped fisheye quality.
Yeah.
Which, just devil's advocate, maybe
was in.
Not think of that.
I can
Music
imagine
videos are using it. It's not a thing that was like invented by these people.
Right. I'm saying that 2 independent makers of television and crews would come to the conclusion that having that kind of warped view of the character would be a good way to portray.
But would they use the same lens? The same sort of middle focus?
What a coincidence.
I mean, when you get down to all of it, the fact that Callisto and Faith were already such similar characters in the text, the fact that they trade bodies and kind of have a similar storyline. Yeah. That's a lot of... When does coincidence turn over into no?
No. Body swaps happen on soaps, right? Do you think they do that?
And comics, which I'm sure was an influence in both. If you want to argue that this is not related, they both
took it from a comics.
Oh, sure.
Marvel did it
but
first.
We don't know those, so
we
we're going to talk about what we know.
Yeah. So there you go.
But yeah, of course, long history of body swaps, but it is very fun to compare, and Vera used it very smartly in her I Come With Knives vid, which compares these dynamics, and it just looks really cool. So it jumps out at you. You're like, oh, this is a really similar plot, these really cool characters. I
was also thinking...
I call it a swipe.
When I referred to Hudson Like playing Xena as Whedon-esque, I think what I'm actually thinking of is his really bold and still upsetting to me decision to have Amy Acker play a new character.
In
the final season.
But that
wasn't
like
the opposite of that choice. The same actor who is familiar and lovely to you is now playing a villain, and that's it. That he just sticks with that. He never fixes it.
And that didn't come out of like a necessity though, or anything.
He did
that was a deliberate choice.
But I do see how what Xena decided to do just as a problem-solving move in a way sets up those later kind of formal big swings. That you can take something really just like your character is your character, played by this actor, and if you break that relationship, you say. Then you can suddenly have Amy Acker playing Illyria, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is a thing now.
Good shit.
So I definitely see like a through line with that. I guess, again, going back to, like, tropes that probably were used elsewhere and are from comics, like Brett. We talked about this at the time. Remember Nothing and The Wish.
Yes.
Also very similar episodes. Once again, Xena airs before Buffy.
Yes.
So Xena did it first.
And that is the ones where they're in, like, an alternate reality.
And you have to do something to, like, break that and come back to your regular reality.
Yeah. And
I like the Xena resolution for that because it just, like, it involves her character so specifically. And, like, in the Buffy one, it's just like, everybody's dead, Dave! And they just have to smash the thingy.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the Xena episode is much more character-driven in some ways. The Buffy one is plottier. It's just kind of like, you know, they want to, like, remove the Slayer from reality, and they do, and it sucks.
It's a Wonderful Life quality.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see
I
that
guess
one
is where both episodes are getting it from, but unless they're getting it from each
Something
other.
Even older than that.
And kind of jumping off from that, another pair that are not as close, but I sort of see them as like spiritual siblings, is when fates collide in Xena season 6 and Normal Again in Buffy season 6. In that they are both, like, AUs that just, like, completely reimagine, like, the premise of the show and are kind of, like, commenting on it. Yeah, they don't have they're not as close as The Wish and Remember Nothing. Like, they don't have the exact same concept, but I was like, oh, that's interesting that when you get, like, deep in your show, you have to do another AU where you just kind of, like, mix everything up and kind of, like, make viewers question reality, which is what both those episodes do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got really distracted in my head thinking about, like, alternate timelines as a plot, and then since it's the holiday time, was thinking about Dickens and Ghost of Christmas Future type things, and like wondering how much further back I can go, and I can't go, but I'm sure you can. It's just like, but like, you know, that seeing of the some shitty
the fork in the road,
timeline. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that because I was like, oh, what else is there before It's a Wonderful Life? What else is there before that?
But yeah, kind of the ending of Normal Again, which kind of hints that all of Buffy is a delusion.
Yes.
You know, kind of reminds me of the way fans react to the end of When Fates Collide and want to embrace it.
You're going to say, the end of Xena entirely.
Oh, well, but yeah, I mean, that is what I'm saying in a way. Yeah. You know, that the people want to look at When Fates Collide as sort of like the real ending. Like this branched off path.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
There's also the musicals, right?
Yes.
Of course.
We talked about that extensively.
But
I mean, come on.
That's literally Xena Did It First.
Yeah.
Literally. Because all those other jukebox musicals on Chicago Hope or whatever the heckins, that doesn't count. Like, Xena did a full-fledged original songs musical first. 100%. And then Buffy did it. And Buffy gets all the credit all the time. Number one. Xena, lucky to even show up on a list of
it
best
hardly
musicals
ever does.
when it is literally one of the best ones and so full of just fun stuff and so much a part of the plot of the show.
Right. It's like inventive. It's not just like, I'm a musical now for no reason. Both these musicals are conscious of like the form and want to give a reason for it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's smart.
Callisto's
That's where I'm literally like, Xena Did It First, and then I get mad because like that does not get the credit.
Does that one get aired in a movie theater? Well, nothing gets aired in a movie theater now, but sometimes the Buffy musical did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
so there
that
you
was
go.
a big thing for a while.
There you go.
I guess it's a little more singable. Buffy
That's
musical.
true. I think that is part of the key to its success. It is very catchy. The Xena one is...
Yes, I lied. Come on, that's catchy.
I mean, everyone listening is like, what are they talking about? I sing to it all the time. But that's because we listen to the songs, we know the words.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that's what you do to know the words to a song. But, like, the Buffy ones are, you know, they're very specific. I think.
Yeah.
They're little ditties.
They're little ditties.
Yeah.
They're different little ditties.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know
sometimes.
musical stuff, but like, wasn't the Buffy musical more designed to be like a musical like that, like where it's its own thing, but like everybody had the soundtrack, everybody like had the sing-along lyrics and everything like that. While I feel like Xena's musical, while good, is not like designed for the broader audience, I guess, designed to be its own.
For itself.
Yeah, for itself as a really
like
good.
For the show.
Yeah, really great musical within the show.
That may be, though it's kind of hard to separate, the way it was received from what it was designed to be. Like it seemed, I feel like by season 6, Buffy had kind of become hip.
Yeah.
And there was that audience already there, ready to, invent a sing-along and buy the merch.
Yeah, I had a huge poster. There was like the cover that they did, the old-timey looking.
We had that in our dorm room.
Yeah.
Another similarity that I see that is looser, but certainly present. Again, you could point the finger at comics, being like they got it from there. Is like the whole concept of the doubles, which both shows do with some frequency. Xena, especially in the early years, doing all the Xenas. But with Buffy, you have like Evil Willow in Doppelgangland, and the Buffy bot, and the time Xander splits in half, and there are 2 Xanders. So, I mean, you have these sort of similar kinds of genre storytelling where you're kind of using doppelgangers and mirrors to do your thing.
Well, that's also from soaps, for sure.
Yeah. I feel like...
Who doesn't love a doppelganger?
Yeah, it's always good.
Twin Peaks got that.
He's a bad influence on himself. One that I'm sure we brought this up a lot, it's more about the fan response than it is about the thing itself, is just the similarities between the way people talk about the Rift in Xena Season 3 and the way people talk about Buffy Season 6.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
They swiped
drama. They swiped the idea of drama from Xena.
They swiped the idea of your show getting kind of dark and pissing people off to the point where they complain and complain.
Well, to be fair, that was the first time in Buffy that they really, like, hardcore, long-term drove a wedge, between these central main characters.
It was the first season that Joss was not showrunning. That should also
Season 6.
Season 6. Yes.
I love Marty, though.
I
love Season 6. So.
I do too.
We do too. I love the Rift, so it makes sense. And I think we've probably made this argument before that, we love drama and we love both these two things.
Drama that challenges your characters from the status quo? Yes, please,
That's funny. I didn't think of that one. I like that.
Yeah, to me, obviously,
doing
it for, but I feel like Xena flirted with the idea of doing something like that for a whole season. Didn't quite do it because it sort of, slaps a Band-Aid on it and then has to, slap another Band-Aid on it. And, all of Season 3 is them trying to, fix the Rift with varying success. And then you get to, Season 6 Xena and it's wait, is that the Rift again? It's come back. Sort of. The Abyss. Still apologizing for the Rift.
Still apologizing. But
Rift apologists.
It's a big deal.
Whereas a Buffy, really committed hard to just destroying everything in season 6 and could not recover. They tried to Willow's trying to apologize all through season 7, and you kind of just get tired of it, but also don't believe it.
Yeah. Well, that was my feeling. It literally couldn't recover because I believe they went to a more... Oh, no, I'm thinking of Angel. The more... I'm thinking of the last thing of Angel. Never mind. Forget what I'm saying. They had, a network note to go less serialized and more...
oh, wow. In the final season of Angel.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yeah, that wasn't a problem with season 7 of Buffy, which is very serialized, but just about stuff that is not interesting.
So wacky. Imagine getting that note.
Yeah.
In that time period where I feel like everything is, it's kind of right around and things are being very intensely serialized on other networks.
That's really
I think it was to try to help the ratings.
Yeah.
Being someone's going to tune in and about this episode about the Mexican wrestlers.
Angel really.
That was
that show.
It had a lot of high concept nonsense.
Oh my god, I just remembered earlier when we were compared Darla and Varias, and I'm still ecstatic.
Okay, I had a bunch of similarities. Again, these are vague. I tend to think that neither of these shows invented the idea of characters changing over time.
Xena did it. Xena invented it.
Invented character development. You heard it here first.
Newsflash.
But, there's some striking parallels between Gabs and Willow, I think. Though you could also say Gabs and Buffy. I was going to say that, yeah. In part because we were talking earlier about how Xena and Buffy are not the same. But, seeing, Gabs is kind of going from innocence to experience. And in a way, that is what both Willow and Buffy do, but in very different ways.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gabs doesn't go dark.
She goes light,
but she goes a little. I mean, she struggles with her, her moral compass. Kind of when she's being introduced to that larger path of the warrior. You do have those episodes where she does a bad. That happens. It just isn't as dramatic as what went on with Willow. But I'm kind of saying the Willow thing broke the character. I mean, you could argue that it was actually a bad move in the long term.
I know.
Disagree.
In my head, I'm trying
hard
to
disagree.
Hard disagree. I loved that.
But you couldn't come back from it, or is that just a problem with season 7?
I think you're thinking about
dumb?
season 7 and Kennedy.
Yeah.
And all
if we can forgive Xena, why can't you forgive Willow?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
You need a whole show, I guess, about Willow post
or Angel,
Dark Willow.
Yeah, you're gonna judge Willow for sort of justified anger, and actually, sort of. I mean, I meant the murder part, which is I don't. When is that justified? I don't know, but her anger is very
against Warren,
justified.
Especially. Yeah.
I would say she's the least problematic of Xena, Angel, all these characters.
Yeah. In other episodes is eroding people's consent with magic.
Yes,
so that's not
bad.
great. Not great.
Bad.
In a way, worse than the flaying of Warren.
No good. Yeah, you are right.
So all that to say that, I still see the parallels there, because, I think you go back to sweet baby angel Willow, and you're like, oh baby my angel. God, sweet baby angel. Yeah.
It's confusing.
And then you see what she becomes, which is a badass. She doesn't quite get there the same way Gabs does, but it's not that different in terms of the path. They both make mistakes. They make the decision to be in that world. It's not like it was born to them. They have to take that step to be in there. And, it transforms them.
Yeah, no, I like it, because I just
they're both gay.
I was saving that for last.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But, no, it's fine. I'm glad, because you reminded me.
Oh, you forgot.
I don't know, it just goes without saying. Just thinking about this, comparison of, this sort of opposite... not a pendulum swing, opposite ends of a spectrum arc, Willow's was let's go super, super, super dark and then have to snap her out of it in the crayon breaky Willow moment, versus the let's go super, super, super light pacifism and then have to break Gabs out of it with the my spine.
That's really cool. They're negative images
breaking
of each other.
Her spine is like breaking the crayon.
Yes.
Wow.
They are both broken,
exploding.
Sixing. Yeah, we're so good at that.
So did you want to talk about
the crayon? Yes.
Did you want to talk about queer storytelling?
Oh yeah,
Buffy and Xena.
Yeah, so yes. I don't know how it actually is anybody stole anything or swiped anything or did anything, but I think Buffy and the team writing it would have been very much aware of the fandom that had built up around Xena, and just how much of a queer following Xena had, and how big it was in the stuff that it was doing, and Buffy being sort of in the position that it was on a different network, telling a different kind of story, that they were actually able to have canonically queer characters, which Xena also does. That's another podcast.
Xena Did It First.
But yeah, they're both very big and important shows in the 90s and in the development of queer characters and storytelling on TV, just broadly speaking. That's the end of my sentence.
There's they both do Sapphic tattoos and spell casting.
Yes,
yes.
They do.
They both sort of indulge in sensual metaphor.
We love a floaty spell.
Yeah, we love some fly fucking.
That would have been first.
That would have been first. It was first. What do you mean would have? It was first.
You know what I'm saying? Yes, it was. Xena and Lauma floated so that Willow and Tara could fly.
Oh my god, dude.
I would argue that Lauma and Xena are the ones actually flying around.
That's true.
Willow and Tara just float.
Yeah, that's true. It's actually the reverse.
Bit. So
doesn't sound as inspiring backwards.
It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Wasn't the painting on Tara's back before Gabs's like dragon tattoo?
Yes, but
not before the bendy.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking specifically back stuff.
You're right.
Yeah. I mean, this is why, it becomes full circle.
Yeah.
Who's influencing who. Yeah. Like, I like I said, I feel like there's actually more textual, like, in terms of what the creators are saying. I feel like we know that the Xena people are watching Buffy and do sometimes seem to be responding to Buffy. Yeah, but good point. The final parallel that I see that is quite striking and huge is that both shows kill off the main characters and then resurrect them. Bring them back from heaven.
Yes. They do.
Like, that literally happens. If you kind of, plotted the two shows, it's actually structured quite similarly. Season 5 of Buffy, season 4 Xena, and then, kind of deal with that resurrection in the next season. I think that is... I would say season 5 of Buffy really builds up to the death in much the same way that season 4 Xena. Season 4, you know what I'm going. Yeah. I hate throwing around numbers of seasons because I just forget what we're talking about.
Ides of March.
Ides of March, obviously, yeah. And The Gift are very similar in terms of really these huge emotional highs paying off a long
They both
game.
are also very much doing the crucifixion metaphor to varying degrees. One just very much
it's
so.
Not a metaphor.
The other one just sticking her arms out real wide. Yeah.
And
that could have been the end of Buffy. And they were semi maybe prepared for it to be the end of Buffy.
Right, it switched networks after that.
It switched networks.
Yeah.
So it could have also ended kind of like how Xena ended, for real, if it had not moved over to UPN. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an alternate universe right there, one in which Buffy ends with Buffy's death.
Didn't Angel go to hell?
Yes.
Okay, so did Callisto.
Right. That's a good point.
More and more.
Yeah, this keeps seeing them.
Just keeps popping out new stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Buffy season 5 would have aired concurrently with Xena season 6. So actually both characters died that season that
year.
We talked Xena died for real. Buffy died temporarily.
Yeah. It was a rough month if you like both shows. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Oof. I was only watching the one, so and I knew it was coming back, so I was all right.
I liked them both.
Yeah.
It was a good month.
Yeah, you liked it.
Drama.
We love drama. Yeah. But yeah, they're both the best. They're both wonderful shows. No competition again.
We obviously continue to wish that Xena had more of Buffy's cultural cachet, but
every
time you see a list,
the podcast exists.
Yeah,
because people don't talk about Xena when they talk about Buffy.
So in a way, we're grateful for we helped fill that space.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. We did it.
Yeah. But yeah.
People talk about Xena here.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I think people have been talking about it more, I hope.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
with the anniversaries and stuff, I think maybe you see that kind of thing pop up. So it just had
But then soon Buffy's going to have anniversaries. Going to be talking about Buffy.
You're right. There's one every 5 years for every show.
That's right.
So, but yeah. Well, we love Buffy. We love Xena. We hope you love them both also.
Yes. And we certainly enjoyed talking about them today. And
thank you for the prompt.
Yeah,
yes, thank you, Bobby.
Really, really good. And it is fun to sort of revisit your Buffy feelings.
It is.
And I think we're donezo here. So follow us on all the stuff and things.
Yeah. Oh, and just to note to you patrons and would-be patrons, we have the next episode of the Lucy Lawless IMDb Experience dropping soon. Ooh. Actually, literally soon.
Yeah.
And it will cover a good little chunk of things, kind of another smorgasbord style episode. But if you want to take a gander at things like Parks and Recreation, No Ordinary Family, what else is there? The Code, which she is like a
character.
Major character in that. Top of the Lake. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah. This is like a smorgasbord before we get to our next biggie, which is Salem.
Oh,
yeah. So if you are interested in that, that'll be dropping soon. You can find the Patreon, patreon.com/XenaWarriorPodcast. We are on Apple Podcasts. We can do the thing where you leave reviews and rate and stuff like that. To the person who left us the bad review that said that we don't like Ted Raimi, that is just false. I don't think they are still listening, but if I have ever in my life given off the impression that I don't like Ted Raimi, I would just like to state for the record.
I believe that's directed at
Ted
me.
Raimi?
It's Joxer.
Do you not like Ted Raimi?
I do. I have no problem with Ted Raimi.
We all love Ted Raimi. Sometimes we have issues with Joxer, which is different than writing on Apple Podcasts that we don't like Ted Raimi.
Joxer and Xander both unrequited love arcs. We didn't talk about that, but there's another one.
Yeah. Oh, them nice guys.
Yeah, the nice guy. The plight of the nice guy.
So just for the record, but if you're giving us 1 star, you're probably not listening to more. And what else? You can listen to the podcast wherever, as you all know, as you're listening to it. We are on Twitter at Xena Warrior Pod, and Facebook Xena Warrior Podcast, and cool.
The power.
The passion.
The podcast.